Well, it's a lovely day in Arlington, Texas, and we're going to have fun. And I'm glad y'all are here. So that's good. Okay, I want to start today by a little reading from our Zentangle creators. This is from their book, the Zentangle Primer. And those of you who have it, I'm going to be reading from page 80. And it bears thinking about. We're going to talk about this colors of tangle some other time, but I'm starting that right down here where they say, make these tangles your own. It is our pleasure to introduce you to 14 more of our tangles, and those will, then in the book, there are 14 more of their tangles. Each tangle is composed of one or more easy to draw elemental strokes. Some tangles are quickly grasped and some require a bit more focus. We encourage you to practice these tangles often. This is the important part. Practice these tangles often so that you can make them your own. Explore their possibilities and draw them by heart. Make them your own. Get to know them and form your own relationship with them. As you tangle the same tangle repeatedly, you will discover aspects and possibilities that were not obvious when you first drew it. And I can attest to that. Back in the beginning, when I was starting to learn this, I thought the one with the most tangles wins. And I would just go through and draw tangles and put them in a book and say, oh, look how many tangles I have. But I didn't really know very many of them at all. And I certainly had not explored their possibilities. And later, when I did begin to explore possibilities, I was amazed at what I could do with a tangle I thought was just a dud. So make it your own. Our goal in teaching you these tangles is not to get you to draw them exactly as we draw them. This is not a class in penmanship where success is defined as creating letter forms that look just like the teachers. We seek only to communicate the elemental strokes, their sequence, and the structure of the tangles. We show these in the step-by-step illustration squares and step outs. Once you understand a tangle's structure and feel its rhythm, you can begin to explore its nuances and, ta-da, develop your own style. I was talking to an artist friend of mine who lives in Colorado about Zentangle stuff. She's a watercolorist. And I was talking about people having different styles and so on. And she was very puzzled. She said, people have different styles in Zentangle? I said, oh yeah. I said, I can look through a whole bunch of Zentangle, a whole bunch of tiles of tangles people have done. And I can right away pick out Maria. I know which ones are hers, just looking at the structure. I know which ones are any Oakins, just looking at it, because of the way they execute the tangles, their own interpretations and stuff. So remember this, ladies, anything is possible one stroke at a time. I think a lot of you have this little thing. Remember that. You just do it one at a time. Easy. Easy peasy. Now, what I'm going to suggest, I'm going to do this like that, is that you begin to put together a collection of tangles that you own. Now, a lot of these tangles, I really do feel like I own. I keep them in a book to remind me about them, but I don't have to look at the instructions so much anymore. I can just draw them. Although if I haven't drawn it in some time, I'll go back and look at it. Like this one, I really like. I haven't drawn it in a while. I'd probably go back and study it a little bit. I went so far as to make these little 2-inch squares even kind of look like a piece of art, because in that way I could reflect on what colors might be good, whether I used a thick or a thin pen, all that sort of thing. And you can keep notes on the back. The other thing I like about having the little tiles is if I'm picking out tiles I want to use in these tangles I want to use on a tile, I can just go ahead and pull them out and say, I want to use that one. That looks familiar, doesn't it? And I want to use it with, oh, maybe this one over here, because they're both kind of wavy. And see what I could make out of it. And so then I could take these away to another place and just kind of have them to look at. Lay them in front of me. And then I've got who created it, what its name is, and all like that. So that I can maybe look it up on the internet or in the Mosaic app and see what other people have done with it. But over time, I've made tons of these little puppies. Not every tangle I use is in here. I realized the other day when I was going through it. I need to maybe go in and fill in some spaces. I also tried to arrange them kind of by the sort of tangle that it is. This is an edge tangle, maybe a border tangle. I'm not sure what this page is supposed to prove, but anyway, there it is. Over here was a lot of black and white. And these again are kind of, most of them are long tangles that you could use in the middle of the tile or along the edge or side of the tile. Here was some ideas of things that I used with fragments, and I used them in a circle and made a mandala with them. More and more. Here's some of those jewels, and we will get to jewels maybe in the spring before we do those, but we will get to them. And these are some filler ones. And these, I don't know, kind of grid things. Here's some combinations of tangles I put together after a class I took. Some of these are what we call blossom tangles, where they're like flowers in the middle, and then you put things around them. Here's a neat feather one. More and more and more. And a blank one I need to fill up. So these tiles, these little 2-inch tiles, there might be a few of them in here that are official, quote unquote, bijou tiles, but most of these are things that I cut from maybe Bristol paper or from hot press watercolor paper. Mostly now I just cut these squares and I use them. It's also nice when you're getting to learn a tangle, not to have a great big tile that you have to fill. You can just take one of these little tiles and put 1 or 2 tangles in there. And, you know, Margot, for your 5-minute tangling session or 10 minutes, you can finish this and come back later maybe and color it in or something, or just set it aside. These plastic sheets here are usually used by, or often used by, people who collect coins. You can get these little cardboard containers to put your coin in and then slip it in there. But you can get these, gosh, just your local hobby shop or art store, whatever, or online. They might also even have them at Office Depot and places like that. They're not that expensive. So what I'm going to suggest today is we learn these. If you brought along your 2-inch tiles, that we start putting them on the little 2-inch tiles. And if you don't have them, don't worry, just use your journal. But by the end of the day, we'll have progress made. And I would say you'll know when a tangle is your own when you feel comfortable drawing it. Like here's the tile I want us to work on today. And it didn't take me any time really to work on, to make it, because I really did already own these tangles. And that was good. It was comfortable for me. I really enjoyed doing it. And the only way you get to that place, is by doing it over and over without worrying. All right, here we go. Now, let's start with, I think I'm going to use my 01 pen here. And this is a piece of, I think it's hot press watercolor paper. And let's start with a fun one, Pokeroot. By Zentangle. And you make it like this, a little stem. You put a little frowny face on top, and then a circle like that. 1 Pokeroot. And then we'll do another one. And this one we may draw behind like that. One of the things I like to do in some of my tangles, especially the ones that are more organic looking, is to bunch things together. So I make sure I have things that are drawn behind and they're closer together. They look more like a flower arrangement that's full of beautiful, beautiful flowers and beautiful things. You can just as well draw them not bunched together. I guess that's just my style. That's what I like. And then we just let them grow out of each other, because after all, these aren't real. We'll let these be visual effects. Okay. And when I shade these, I usually kind of put a little smiley face down here and maybe right up under there a little bit with the graphite pencil. And then we'll come back with our tortillon. Didn't get those right in there like that. By the way, if these tortillons start being a little dull or you don't like the way they are, a good way to kind of fix them is, well, it's hiding from me. Here you go. You can just use an emery board and just kind of sharpen it that way on an emery board if you want to. That's just a little tip I threw in. All right, so now we've done Pokeroot. And that one was stepped out by Zentangle headquarters. And we can set him aside. The next one, well, let's do Mooka. Mooka is, some of you have learned Mooka before, some maybe not. Mooka is one I just love. It is Maria's favorite too, because it's just so free and any way you do it is wonderful. You begin, kind of hold your pen lightly, relax, and just make an arch, come around like this. You can stop for a moment there and then aura this line, come on down. Just like that. I will tell you this, I find it very difficult to draw this in pencil and then try to go back over it again with ink slowly. It never has the same grace, if you will. So it really works better if you just draw it. And whatever shape comes out is fine. And don't squeeze your pen. The grace from this comes from a lot of practice and just doing it all kinds of different ways in all kinds of different places. I'd say get a sheet of paper or scratch paper. If you print something out and it's not what you wanted, save it and then practice your Mookas on the back and go ahead and practice them big. You may be surprised at how they turn out. And then you can do Mookas this way. Or sometimes we don't even do that little crook in it. We just do that right there. And sometimes we'll shade that in like that. Or you can use little things like that. Then as we shade it, I often just do this. And then maybe on the kind of underside of this stem a little bit. There you go. And there we go. Different papers are going to take that graphite in different ways. The more you tangle, the more you're going to find that you like one particular type of paper over the other. This paper is very smooth and very slick. This somewhat, the regular Zentangle tiles are a little bit rougher and a little bit spongier. So they have a totally different feel when you're working with them. So that's Mooka, M-O-O-K-A, by Zentangle 2. Then we got Zinger. Zinger always reminds me of Dr. Seuss. You know, funny little hats people wore. I always wonder if Rick and Maria pulled that out of their children's storybooks. Okay, so we get our tile. And just like with Mooka, and you can see that very similar line, you just pull it out here, but instead of a big loop, you just put a little ball, color it in. And then kind of put a little hat on it. And then maybe an even bigger hat. It took me a long time to get used to drawing this, to get comfortable with it. I just had to draw it a lot. And so you can kind of make it go different directions. It can look a little wonky. And it's just fine. So let's do this one. And if you get too close to the edge, you just bend it over a little bit and make the hat go the direction you want it to go. Probably be fun to just go nuts with these and make a whole tile with nothing but zingers. There you go. You can make that stem coming up thicker or smaller. You can spread it out. This is stuff we're going to talk more about next week when we talk about enhancers, that you can make things look entirely different just by adding different line weights. So there. And shading it, don't shade right to the edge. Come a little bit in from the edge and it'll have more of a sense of realism because of the reflected light that usually, if you look at real objects, there's a little light from the background that comes in there. And so you can shade these like that. All right. And instead of dots, you might just put little things like that too. So that's where your art comes in. Your style comes in. We put the name on the bottom, Zinger. And it's by Zentangle. Okay, now we're going to do the last one. And it's perhaps the most complicated, although it's not that complicated. This is one I drew last night a bit, just plain. On the backs of these, you can also put little hints. And on this, the little hint was you kind of start by making a heart line down the middle, and then you put those lines in. Also, this I wrote on here the name of it. All these names, you know, guys, are just made up words. So, and Tina Akur Hunsaker is who kind of invented this one. I colored it in with these colors. I really kind of like them. I want to make a whole tile out of these someday. Or maybe I'll color one of these that we create that way. But let's begin learning this one. So I'll just put a kind of a heart there. And I think I'm gonna make these lines kind of S-shaped, backwards S-shaped on this side. That's one. And now we just keep making more. Always turn your tile to make it easiest to draw. And I think I've mentioned it before, but I'm not sure to this group, that if you keep your arm, this arm planted on the table and move the tile, your hand will actually have muscle memory. So the more you do this, the better you'll get, and you'll be able more easily to make lines that are like the other lines, to duplicate that line. Whereas if you turn it this way and then this way, trying to get all of these little lines, I mean, if you turn your hand those ways, you'll just have a lot harder time doing it. Okay, I'm gonna put one more on here. You can add more later. And then if I'm shading it, I don't know, maybe right down the middle a little bit and a little bit around the edges. Okay. So there's that. And we're going to call it and I'm going to go ahead and put her name on the back since it's kind of long. By Tina. K-U-R-A. No, K-U-A. There we go. All right. And you might also just put in a few little tendrils like that. Okay. So now we've done those. And we feel so smart because these are our new tangles. Now, so this is where I'm headed. And I want to show you something first about this. Let's see. Whatever we want to be on top when we're doing our tangling, you think about it beforehand. I always think about what I'm going to do beforehand. Some people just roll the dice and put it in there, and you can do that, but I just like the way it looks if I've done a little more planning. Whatever you want on top, you draw first in ink. You don't necessarily have to draw it first in pencil, but draw it first in ink. And so there is the first thing we're going to draw in ink right here. Then it's kind of nice, especially in these organic looking tiles, to have things seem to grow out from the other one. So the next thing we add are going to be these, but we're going to look like we've come from behind, like we're pulling these out from behind these things. So these are going to be on top. These are going to be behind those. And then finally, we're gonna pull these things, the Mookas, the long Mookas, and the Zingers out from behind those things yet. And it'll look like a bouquet almost. And I think it answers Martha's question that she put to me last week about how to make it look more like some of the tiles you see that are all looking terribly prepared. They may be really carefully prepared, or they may have just used this trick of starting with something and then putting other things behind it, behind it, behind it. It's in a way counterintuitive, especially if maybe you're used to doing oil paints or something like that. You would maybe start with the background in some ways, and then when you get up to the foreground, you put that on last because you want that to overlap what goes on in the back. This way we have to come in backwards. And because we want, or I like this effect, and I want to show you in this tile how to work it. I want the flowers to look like they're coming out of the frame and they're overhanging the edges of the frame. There's just so much the frame can't hold it. And so we're going to draw that frame last in ink, but we're going to draw it first in pencil. So stretch your little fingers. If you need to take a quick break, do so, because we're going to have to do some fast drawing, but we know what we're doing and we can do this. Everybody set? You bet. Okay. Here we are. So the first thing that we do, Shelby, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but when we really start to do our tile, we kind of go through a little ritual, so to speak. Here it's outlined. We start with, and this is the real method of Zentangle. We start with gratitude and appreciation. Then we put corner dots, then our border, then our string, then our tangles. Then we do some shading, we initial and sign, and then finally we appreciate it all at the end. So we kind of go through these steps every time. And this is where we're supposed to get all of our Zen. So here it comes. I don't know what happened. There we go. I need a production assistant, but they're in short supply around here. So I'm always grateful when I get together with people in Tangle just to have them around me, and I'm especially grateful that I have some good supplies to work with and great ideas from other people. And so then I look at this, and so that I don't feel intimidated, I'm just going to start with just a dot in each corner. Anybody can do that. One dot at a time. Turning our tile as we go. Very gentle. Then we're going to draw our border. And we can either draw a straight type line, or we can draw a wonkier line. But today I'm going to leave it pretty straighter. It does not have to be perfect. It gives a little wabi-sabi to it, a little bit of that perfection of imperfection. Okay. And now we're going to aura this. An inside aura. So we just draw our frame. And hold your pen or your pencil very lightly. Don't press down too hard. And there we've got our frame. And now, last night people were having trouble, and I was too at some points, remembering what was up and what was down. And so I'm going to put a little piece of orange tape over here in my upper left-hand corner. Is that the upper left-hand corner on your screen? Tell me it is. Yep. Okay, good. Very good. Okay. Now that's all we're going to do for that. Now we're going to actually start with our Alabastro. These leaves. Put them in here. I'm going to go ahead and just work with my ink pen. If you want to work all in pencil, that'll work. And then ink later. We've got about 25 more minutes. We won't get pencil and inking all done and all the shading, but you can pick those up on your own after class. We'll get the main work done here. Let's see. And we're drawing behind some. So don't forget to breathe. Okay. At this point, I'm going to start adding in some of my Pokeroots, my sweet little Pokeroots. They're so cute. They're precious. Here they are. I'm going to put them all around here and maybe even one or two down here. You can see what I've done here, like I put them. And you'll see later that these kind of mirror these, and so they go together. Those shapes work together. That's another thing that unifies a tangle, is if you have shapes that are similar. You need contrast, and then you also need similarity in a piece. So I'll begin. You might also decorate the envelopes that you send to people in the mail, a light company, your best friend's birthday card. And just brighten somebody's day with it. Okay. All right. I think that's enough. Maybe one more. And now, be bold, be calm, and let's put in our mookas, our little mookas right here. Relax your hand, your shoulders, and just go for it. And when you've done enough of those and you be the judge, it's time to put in a few zingers stuck in there. And you can do some of them in front and some of them behind the other things. All right. All right. How are we doing? Ready to attack our frame yet? Okay. Thanks, Christine. You can always add more later. Here we go. So we can, maybe we start with the inside of the frame and we just follow that line, but don't draw over what you've drawn before. Like, don't cover up the Mooka. And if it makes you feel more comfortable and you've got an eraser nearby, go ahead and just erase those lines out of there so that you're not tempted to just keep drawing. One lady that teaches Zentangle doesn't call this eraser an eraser. She calls it a refining tool. So use your refining tool to get rid of some of the pencil marks if you want to. Okay. So now we've done that. And now we can do the outside. Relax your hand. Don't choke your pen. Breathe. I think what we're going to do today is just leave this frame as it is. And we're going to cover the shading. And if you want to add more to this frame, if you want to come up with your own design for the frame, or if you just want to make little squares and put in fragments, or you just want to shade it and leave it alone, or just aura it with a few more lines, put little beads in it, whatever. I'll leave that to you. But ask you when you're done to put it up on Facebook, or at least send it to me so I can see and brag on you. But let's go ahead and do our little shading. Maybe start with these leaves kind of in the middle. I think my favorite Zentangle teacher is Annie Oken, and she can give you a whole lot of stuff to digest in one of her classes. But she advises us, and she's been teaching art for years. She advises us as we work on things that if you're feeling a little overwhelmed by too much stuff, just to sit back and think about it and take home one new thing, just one, out of all the stuff you may have been shown in that class, just one new thing. And remember, you can always go back and rewatch the Zoom, the recording of it, if you decide you want to learn more from that lesson. I have a tendency to want to tell you everything in one lesson, and I know it won't all go in. So I need to kind of maybe cut back and let you practice more. I just shaded that inside of that, and it shows up better in person, but it kind of, I think, adds some depth to it. Plus the shading on the other things. Okay. There we go. Even if it's not quite finished, let's go ahead and put our initials on it. And date it and sign the back. So that's 10.